Welcome back for the very special game, or series too, I should say. Cerberus against GAM. We have the winter final rematch. The two best teams in the league by far. They went to 5 games. No one got even close to them. They stomped the semifinals, and Cerberus walked away with a hard-fought victory. Welcome back, Coach Tim and Marvin Nogi. We are on to the 4th series of the spring season, and probably the most exciting one. So, what do we expect for today? Let's not hit the big point just now, just some quick, maybe storylines to follow these two teams. What is it they have to achieve this year? Marby, maybe, to start.
So, both are really looking for that top spot again because GAM, that's historically been theirs. It's been a little bit hit or miss in terms of holding it over the last couple of years, with thanks to Flash having it and then Cerberus grabbing it in winter. But that is always GAM's goal. They are always looking for first. Meanwhile, Cerberus, they really want to stamp and solidify their place as that top team. Might be a bit difficult with current situations, but you might look towards the global meta and the bot focus and say, oh, we have Artemis, this is perfect for us.
There's
I
not
think,
much we can say. I think we should probably move on. There's not much you can add to that.
yeah.
But let's talk about the big elephant in the room. And Tim, I'm going to give you the first crack at this huge topic coming up. So for all the fans who have followed the scene in the off season as well, there was some drama going on the Cerberus side. I don't want to get into the details, but Ego is very likely not going to play today. He has some issues with the team. Everyone has some issues with Ego and his behavior. But he was probably the best jungler, maybe the second best jungler in the winter split. So this team missing Ego is going to be quite a huge deal, right?
Yeah, it seems a bit like a name is programmed for him, at least towards his teammates.
Oh,
But
yes.
overall, I think it's a big hit. I think they still have individually good players, so they can potentially still win games. I'm just not sure if it's enough to win against GAM in particular, right? And that's a big question coming in because cool, you won Winter Split, but it will always have the asterisk that even in theory there wasn't an international tournament to be had and to go to, and it was just that Winter Split that shouldn't have existed and only existed because summer didn't happen. And so it will always be a question mark: was that a real split, or were you just a one-hit wonder? And for Cerberus, not having Ego is going to make it so much harder to contest for that for this first position. We just hope that they reconcile and he comes back into the team because they can still win the next split, but it's going to be very hard.
And Marby, you've been here before with Cerberus being the huge disappointment later on the split. And this team is basically just the Cerberus of old, right? It's just a jungler we don't really know too much about. I don't even remember him playing. He wasn't very noticeable, I think. And the rest of the players are still very good. But this Cerberus team, with this iteration without Ego, never managed to really put much up for themselves, especially in the playoff situation. So what do you expect from them, looking back historically at this roster of 4 established players at least? I think you're muted.
I'm muted.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I didn't forgot to turn off the cough. Yeah, so historically the big thing used to be that if Yado choked in playoffs, as he kind of historically did, they only then had Artemis to work through. But with Pun stepping up and Ego coming in, they didn't have to rely on Yado being there to actually back up Artemis. And that didn't really seem to matter so much because Yado still performed extremely well throughout the playoffs. So hopefully it won't hurt them as much as it could have, because Yado can still play fantastically, still be that big carry. Pun hopefully will still maintain his form, but losing that big jungle point of pressure is gonna be painful. We've seen a little bit out of Fuquan. He hasn't been the most standout, most impressive a rookie or anything like that. So he's been on the Puppies lineup for a long time now. He's just been he'll be okay. He'll be serviceable, I'm sure, but it's gonna be a big downgrade.
Yeah, he has to face off against Levi of all people in the first game, so that's a huge task, even for Ego. And now it's for Fuquan, so definitely GAM favored, I'd say. Do you agree with me? That I'm actually quite aggressive in my prediction today here in this series. I went for GAM 2-0. Do you guys agree? Do you think Cerberus can take one or even the series, Tim?
I think they have the potential to take one. I don't think they have any reasonable shot at winning the series. I have to agree there, but I think they have a reasonable shot of taking at least one game. Levi last split had some very good performances, but also some games where he basically had no impact. And should that happen, and we've seen how much you can accomplish with just a chill jungle gameplay, just go for your objectives. And we saw that in the last series how good that can work out when you have strong laners to work with you. And that way, I think still Cerberus can take at least a game. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be an uphill battle all the way.
Yeah, I think Cerberus in theory should have at least 2 out of 3 lanes should be bet in the advantage of Cerberus just out of player difference and player skill, which should help alleviate the jungle pressure a little bit. But yeah, I don't think it's enough to carry them through a series. But it should be. I wouldn't be shocked to see a game go. I would be happy with. I would expect a 2-1 really, because GAM can also always throw a thing away. They are prone to do that.
Yeah, and GAM's recent regular season starts have actually been a little bit shaky. Usually they were the best, especially in 2020, the best by far. A regular season team almost never dropped even a game, just to flash here and there. But the last year wasn't super great. They finished first in spring, if I remember correctly, but they had some shaky performance at the start, and they didn't finish first for the first time in ages in winter, so let's see how they start their season. They have been very strong in C games, splitting 1-1 with SGB, and other than that, winning basically everything, if I remember correctly. Cerberus, on the other side, didn't start their full roster, so we don't really have any clue of their current level, so it's a big mystery. But I want to hone in on the draft, as we're close to the first draft of the series, and remind you too of the number 1 pick that came in the finals. Game 1, we had Cerberus as the favorite. Victor was unbeaten coming into the series, and Yado got his victor. Everyone was like, okay, this game is over already, pack it up. And then Kati 1v9'd on Corki. We are still on a strong Corki patch. Is Corki going to be as important today as it was in the final?
I mean, with both of these mid laners, I'm kind of expecting more of the standard picks, more of the Victor Corki, because it's what they've shown last bit as well. I think so far, a lot of the mid laners, especially today, of course, were kind of shying away from those traditional picks. Yes, we saw the one Froggy Corki, and we forgot about it quickly. But I think with those 2 mid laners, they like to play those traditional mages often enough, and we might just see Victor Corki all the way.
Yeah, I feel the Corki in the finals, it hadn't really been as established quite yet, so
That's true.
there was probably a fair amount of discomfort from Yado playing into it, but it's surged in popularity since then, so I imagine it won't be quite as effective as it was since at that time. 1v9s can still happen, of course. We've seen it in LCK, LPL, but I don't think it'll be quite as much of a gotcha, this'll ruin everything. But yeah, I think it'll definitely show up, and we'll just see Victor Corki back and forth as a standard sort of thing.
That makes a lot of sense. And the last, as I hope we're going to get we're close to draft, it's always a little bit of a guessing game here on our side. So let's focus on the ADC position. We have the MVP. We had a podcast section on potential MVPs, and basically everyone said, can we ignore Artemis? Because if we can't ignore Artemis, we're just all going to say Artemis. He was the standout player, the star of the show in winter, and deservedly got our MVP, and I think the official MVP as well. So now he's a champion. He's the number 1 player in the whole league, I'd say, and he has some new toys to play with. maybe the new Kai'Sa build, the Zeri coming in, of course. So what can we expect from Artemis? Is he just going to be going to go back to winter meta, or do you think he's one of those players that is going to experiment with some of the newer picks? Marby, to start.
I think he'll go. I mean, he'll probably grab Zeri if it's left open, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him just sort of stay on the Caitlyn Jinx, try and play fairly standard through your through bot lane, break towers, rotate around the map, get that Jinx going, getting really far ahead. We might even see them really double down and go for a smite top strategy. That is a potential thing that could happen, but from the bot lane itself. Yeah, they'll grab Zeri if it's open, but I think it's fairly standard. I don't see Kai'Sa coming through unless there are multiple bans thrown at AD carry.
I agree there. I think overall, Artemis was somebody who would go for some more of the off-meta AD carries. We saw him playing Samira very early with mixed success. I would put it that way. I can see him maybe going for some second-rate AD carries. I mean, we've already seen the Twitch ones. The original Twitch, of course, in the VCS last bit was Artemis coming out with, I think, 16 kill performance, something like
17,
that.
I believe, yeah.
17 kill performance and completely smurfing in the game. I wouldn't put it past him, especially Twitch that I think is kind of underrated. He's definitely not this first-rank AD carry, but as was already said, I think if some of the top 80 carries are banned out, we could see something like the Twitch, something maybe like the Kai'Sa.
And yesterday in LEC, I believe we had one game. It wasn't very successful, to be fair, but there was a game of Vayne, and Artemis's Vayne is actually the bane of GAM's existence. Every time they played against each other in regular season, he pulled out the Vayne and upset GAM at least in one game, if not even two. So I would be down for some Artemis Vayne. Also, have my eyes on Ronopi. I came in winter very skeptical, not negative, but skeptical of Ronopi's, let's call it champion pool or diversity. I know he's great on engage supports, but he actually stepped up so much on the Namis, on Yumi, I believe, as well. So,
wow.
Potentially a little bit of Lulu today from Ronopi. I'm very hyped for this bot lane matchup as a whole. Let's, as we're still counting down the seconds to the draft, let's finish with the top lane. We have Pan against Kiaya. Everyone knows these two players. Where are we going? Is Kiaya going to stomp Pan today, or is he going to be able to withstand the pressure from Kiaya? Let's start with Marby again. What do you think about this top lane matchup today?
So there was a really big nerf to Pan specifically, and that is the teleport nerf. So he can't really play into his strength of being a very good weak side.
Very true.
Player who transitions into the team fight. I mean, he can still try and do that and still play that out fairly well, but it means he's not going to be able to make these big early plays to get his bot lane rolling or have that impact on the maps. So if they go into that sort of straight up 1v1, you would favor Kiaya, but you know, maybe an Ornn is enough for Pun to just keep his tower happy, or he just sacks the tower entirely, as said, for the smite strategy. But, yeah, I feel this is the chance for Kiaya to get one back over on Pun, but because Pun's preferred playstyle just took a hit.
And Tim, I don't think I ever asked you this, but are you as much of a fan of Kiaya as I am, as a laning connoisseur? Do you like Kiaya as a player?
I've heard great things. I've seen mixed results. I would put it this way. I think he had some very high highs, but he also griefed more lanes than I could count in the last season. I think there was the one performance versus Ryuk in week 2 or something where he got completely ultra clapped. And for no reason at all. Like, he was losing like Jace Renekton matchups and getting ultra clapped in a matchup and multiple times solo killed and stuff like that, where it was just questioning his existence, kinda. But yeah, I've heard good things and I've seen some good things. He had some good laning phases and cleaned it up towards the end of the season for sure. But he has to show that he can bring the consistency that is needed to be that lane dominant top laner, because you really can't do any mistakes. If you do, you're gonna get punished on top lane, and any death you have can instantly end the game for you.
Just saying, he still had the best numbers of all the top laners. But I think we're finally moving into draft. Here we go. Game of the week, match of the week, I should say. And game 1 is on the way. And Caitlyn is not going to be seen, but not because people are going to ignore the Caitlyn pick again, but because she's first banned on blue side by GAM.
That is nice to see. I'm glad to see them actually giving that champ the respect it deserves, and as Artemis as well. So I think it sort of sets up a sort of probably an Aphelios angle for Style, who has been confirmed on the socials as the starting ADK for GAM. Or I just completely forgot the fact that Seri has been left untouched, so that's a snap lock.
Yeah, and we saw one Zeri today, and we see another one with 2 of... I mean, you said it earlier today that Mr. Artemis was an understudy of our earlier Zeri, so let's see if he can pull out the same performance. And on the other side, Yado is back on his favorite champion. Oh yay.
Oh yeah. And why change a working formula? They were kind of upset with the Corki. They had to change their Victor ways because Corki was just too strong. But now Corki's banned, so they can just go default back to the Victor. I'm a little disappointed in the Nautilus pick, but everything going as expected. Ki is #1 champion on Renekton as well, now coming in on the blue side. Marby, what's going on?
Renekton is still being played.
It's just pain. I mean, Renekton had like 100% ban rate actually in LCK for like the first 3 weeks or something, and I was literally having a mental breakdown over it. But I'm interested to see. Now you need an early aggressive jungler, and I'm even down for something like an Italy. I wanted to say, come give us Renekton Italy. Yes. Okay, so Levi decided, hello, Mr. Rookie Jungler. Good luck in the league. I'm gonna clap you.
Oh yes,
and he picked Nidalee.
And Mr. Rookie Jungler might have to pick now. Oh.
So yeah, that's a fairly strong answer to the Nidalee and the Renekton. It kind of shows down their ability to aggress onto you as a jungler, and it's got that flexibility to the top side. I mean, if you want to copy the LJL a little bit, they did run the Smite top Poppy, so that is another angle they can take if they really want to. But I think the Poppy lock is great. It's it's undervalued in a few regions, but it plays so well into what's already been locked in from GAM and denies a few of the other big picks that they could go for.
I mean, if one team wanted to play with the Smite top lane strategy, it would have been Cerberus in my mind with having Artemis on bot lane. And the big thing is, Renekton Nidalee wants to dive you on top lane. They cannot dive you if you're not there.
Yeah, and Renekton with a full tower plates kind of just isn't worth anything.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you want to play the strategy, this is the game, man. Like,
let's have a look at the second-rate bans here. We have Syndra and Leona coming in for Cerberus. A little bit of focus on the direct counter matchup maybe, or what they deem a counter matchup in mid lane. And then also banning away the Leona from B, so maybe forcing him on some of his more out there picks. But it's also still Enchanter possible for Zeri Enchanter. Yumi's up, so I'd expect a Yumi here, right?
it can very well be Yumi. But into Nautilus it's risky, and into Poppy as well with the W. So it is a bit risky to pick the Yumi here, because you can never, in teamfights, get out with Gragas, Poppy, Nautilus. There's no way you're ever getting out there. You always have to sit on somebody.
I'm annoyed at the Gragas pick being locked in here. I think you just go your AD carry in, so you can make sure that if that Renekton isn't topside, yeah, you could probably run much of a bit fancier strategy, but now you've kind of given the counter pick over to I mean, either of them, Kiara and Cardi, can still flex the Renekton or Kali wherever they please. So I kind of wanted to save that, so they had to show a little bit of where things are. Yeah, I don't think that was going to be Quinn bot lane.
I mean, no, I was a bit confused, because Quinn actually is one of the champions that run Smite and build support item and then roam over the map. So I was, wait, they just locked in Samira.
Yes.
What?
Let's go. I love playing Samira myself. I'm always up for some Samira. Might be rough into Braum, but I'm really I'm really excited for the Samira. Artemis Samira, he didn't win all the games, but he always looked good. So let's see what he can do.
I remember his first Samira pick last season, and he literally griefed lane, was completely useless, and had, I think, the second lowest damage in his team. He wasn't inting it, it's just he never got to auto-take anybody, and I think he still won, because Yado on Victor was just a complete beast. So we might see the same here. This time, though, he has some decent setup because he's playing into a lot of low-range champions, so he probably actually does get to hit people in the face, and that's usually what Samir wants to do, just go low range and kick them in the face.
So, my biggest complaint with Samira is you're generally, it's really bad because of the laning phase, and so great with Azeri, up against Azeri, you're kind of giving that kind of handshaking of the lane. Both of you are going to be kind of useless early, but I really hate Samira into Renekton and Braum specifically. These two champions will just, you'll dash in, you'll get immediately stopped and immediately killed. I think it's a terrible last pick and completely undoes the strength you have by having Artemis.
I actually think this is mostly aimed at Zeri here, because Zeri is kind of known as the diving ADC as well, like trying to look for an opportunity, but we don't have time for that. We don't even have time for predictions. We're going to go straight to the casters. We have Carrick stepping in on the play-by-play role. Rebel is still here as well. Game of the week, and let's go into it.
A lot of complaints out of the analyst desk, Rebel. A lot of complaints here. And we've got GAM taking on Cerberus. It's a finals matchup. I'm sick of these complaints. We're here for bangers, and these teams are about to deliver.
Yeah, I'm not here to complain about anything when it comes to these two, because the amount of just rivalry that's been culminating over the last couple of seasons, ever since Cerberus kind of failed on their one push to try to win the split, has been huge, and it all came to fruition at the end of last split, and now we get to see the ramifications of all of it together, and I'm really excited for that prospect.
And look, I'm not going to lie. It's a big blow that Ego is Egon. But I believe in Fook. I think he can step up, take it to Levi. He's on Poppy. It's an enabling pick. He doesn't have to pop off and carry. He's just got to help the team.
Yeah, anyone forward thinking enough inside of the VCS to pick something like the Poppy out of absolutely nowhere when you haven't played before already gets a nice little check mark in my book, right? Like, this is a champion that I feel like is never a VCS champion. No one would have ever imagined that you would take something like this. This is like the typical LCK
Rika, mate, I remember you. I remember Eureka. It's all right, mate. Oh, that's a blast from the past. But anyway, we're into the game. As I've been saying, it is a matchup that we have a lot of history behind, as a hook will land onto B. The first trade does go over to Cerberus. Of course, Style does not want to fight at level 1. Zeri doesn't have an ability, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Rebel, I need you to explain something. Oh boy, look at Yado's rune.
Yado, you are Chad.
What?
This is Chad Yado. This is, you want to know what this is? Like, usually you would take like Airy or something for some additional trade pressure, and this is Yado just going, you know what? I'm gonna perma health stack your ass, and that's what happened.
He tries to step away, does manage to get away from that shield. He hasn't burnt the flash. Yado, the absolute Chadmeister, will get the Levi flash as well as Fook comes in to back him up.
No way this is happening right now. Fook 1 just slams the door on Levi and Kadi in the mid lane to try to punish Yado, who doesn't even have to burn a summoner spell. He's got the grasp root. He's supposed to auto attack. And he just walks. Yeah, like, it's insane.
He sidestepped the spear and went, can't hit the spear. You can't kill me, mate. I'm out of here.
Later, chomp. Just walks away from that situation in pretty convincing fashion.
Done.
Yeah,
Zeri had a look into the jungle as well. Just spotted Fook finishing up his clear. Isn't going to try and make a play out of there.
Yeah, it's good control of the bottom side of the map with Style, with B, where they're able to push out against Artemis. The lack of range, the lack of real wave clear to start things off is a little rough. What is happening with Kadi right now? He is in the face of Yado. Yado's full health, man. Relax.
Yado steps up, gives him the how you going, and Kadi, back to base, mate. Off your trot.
You're handing him grasp stacks for free. This Victor's gonna have like 4k health by the time he's on 4 items. This is not gonna be a fun
the
one.
only thing getting grasped right now is Yado's hand around Cardi's throat. He's got a tight grip. because he's dominating this lane.
It really is so far. At least the CS is relatively even. And Kadi, of course, you could still opt for like the tank Akali build, which changes things up a little bit. Especially into something like this, where like it's going to be a really health stacking victor. The early trading just isn't there because it doesn't do as much damage or consistent enough damage as like something like Airy. And so Kadi, I think, could take more consistent trades against Yado with this rune that's been selected. It's just so that the all-in is never really going to succumb, so that Yado can just stand here and do as he pleases.
Artemis in a little bit of trouble, has to find a way out. We'll just pop the W and no one else can get in range. He just walks away. Ronop did burn his flash to keep himself safe. So Levi will manage to get a summoner spell at the very least.
Control so far from the side of Cerberus, pretty much across the map, because Levi's now tried 2 different ganks and has been thwarted on both of those attempts. We haven't really seen Fuquan step into a lane quite yet, but again, the Nidalee is really the one that's expected to get out and about as much as possible in the earlier stages. The champion's not designed to really go into the hyper late game for the most part. So I guess in this earlier stage, just shutting out Levi is a pretty big boon to the side of Cerberus, especially when they've got Yada to be able to count on in the later game. I know it's a little interesting because they have a lot of forward fighting potential with like you throw a Poppy forward, you throw a Gragas forward, you throw Samira forward, and there's a lot to be said. What a cover from Fuquan too, because again, if Levi decided to just bounce directly into mid lane, immediately the door would be slammed on another gank.
Pun having to flash away. Kiaya was on top of him with a pretty full rage bar. And Pun with very little mana couldn't really tangle with that one, so a summoner spell burned up here on the top side.
Probably just going to TP back here because it's unlikely Renekton's going to be able to clear the wave super effectively, so ultimately it's not going to mean too much. Pun is down CS, but this is like the tank Gragas build.
Oh.
Does he want it? Nope.
Nah, he sees Fook there, knows that he can't go forward, would just get denied by that steadfast presence. But again, it's another like, it's not an explosive bit of impact from Fook, but he's just in the right place at the right time. I think if Fook's not there, Yado probably dies.
Yeah, a good number of times they've been able to cover for this mid lane.
Oh, in they go! He gets smacked into a wall though and has to just dash away. That's the Akali ult burned, getting nothing.
It's an attempt, I think, from Fuquan to try to get Yado out of lane, because right now he's a level down and doesn't have a teleport to really get back to lane super quickly, and they really want a back timer for it. So Fuq was trying to sit there, and Levi attempts to come in, and Kadi's like, okay, we could go on a full engagement, but unfortunately, like you said, put him into a wall, had the steadfast presence up. There's no ultimate that can really tag Yado, especially with all the health that he still had, about a third of his bar. Wasn't going to find that execute without trading the kill back over. So it's just time and time again, GAM has been thwarted on these mid lane plays.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they do see that Yado is where to attack. It makes sense, don't get me wrong. You can't really do much about a Gragas up on the top side. It's a Gragas, he just chills out for a long, long time. But I'm surprised they haven't had a crack at bot lane at all. I feel like you can't just let Artemis do whatever Artemis wants. I need to see Levi get down there.
Maybe the thought process here is that, like, with a Renekton and with an Akali, which are both capable of taking a fight from, like, very low range alongside the Samira, really the intention to bottom side ganking would actually be more so to get the Zeri ahead, which I think is a very valuable thing. So I think eventually Levi should shift into bottom lane, not even necessarily to shut down Artemis. It's kind of a dual purpose, though, because you shut down Artemis while simultaneously getting style ahead is eventually going to work, and Yado is just a brick house right now. Like, there's no way to bring him down.
Yeah, it's very true. As Ron OP whips out the hook, doesn't quite land it though. Takes a little bit of punishment on the backside. We do see Gamma in full control of this bot wave as the Zeri wave clear is beginning to come in. Nothing too serious though. The CS is still fairly even. Once Artemis catches that wave under his tower, I think it will be about dead even. So, we are pretty even Stevens. A couple hundred gold between these teams, mostly due to this top lane. That's pretty expected. Rebel, who does this favor?
I'm going to hold that question for the next minute because I need to see who is going to flip on this Rift Herald because it has a tendency to pop up in pretty much every single game inside of the VCS.
Kadi?
He's the guy to
They're not going to move forward. There was the perfect execution used. And Yado saves his ult. So, Akali ult with a fairly long cooldown. I don't think he's going to have it up for the Herald play.
Most likely not.
He definitely won't.
Not going to come through. Ron OP, he kind of poked into mid lane alongside B. Both of them are up here with the intention of going towards the Rift Herald. The problem here for Cerberus is that their top laner, Pun, right now doesn't have the wave clear and isn't able to fight against Kiaya. So the push is actually in favor of Kiaya to be able to get into the river first here. You can see Pun is catching the wave and he has no mana to work with, which makes this all the more difficult for Cerberus to try to fight for. Now, Artemis is here first, although...
Styles not moving.
Yeah, Styles not moving.
Coming.
Tragic.
It's the Shelly bargain. Look, let's see how much he can get done on this bottom lane tower. This is something Yue talks about a lot. The bargain is being opted into by GAM. He's got to get a few tower plates because, of course, Cerberus do manage to get. He's gotten 2. Yeah, this is fine, honestly. It does show that GAM wants to play around style. Traditionally, that's not a very GAM thing. They typically do play through other members, but Style is a good player. They've never made that decision because Style is bad. It's that's just the decision they made.
I actually really like this from GAM in a number of different ways. First off, the push from Kiaya denied any sort of like Rift Herald immediate top play that could respond to those plates to start with. And then you couple this with like, if they stick around too long, then B and Levi go after these two. Artemis canceled his back.
He canceled his B. That's a disaster. He doesn't have flash, uses the dash well, puts up the W as well, and a good flash there to get away from that Glacial Fissure, but he could have just finished the recall.
He probably could have. They were walking in. I'm guessing he was anticipating a spear to come out from the Nidalee maybe once he saw that Levi was coming out, but it just doesn't matter because he's Smurf anyway. Yeah, that was rough. That was a pretty rough ultimate from B because it kind of missed. Although Artemis flashing it obviously changed a little bit. So they do get the summoner spells out of Artemis. But yeah, there's a number of little situation right there that felt a little bit rough for Artemis because I feel like he didn't need to end up burning that. He could have finished the back and even could have maybe even just sidestepped the Glacial Fissure because it didn't seem like it was aimed directly at him. It seemed like it was aimed in the direction he was trying to flee. But who's to say? It is still just plates in the pocket of GAM in exchange for neutral objectives in the pockets of Cerberus here.
Yeah, Pikachu's leveling up here, Rebel. This is turning into a Raichu pretty quickly. And I'm getting a little bit worried on behalf of Cerberus because they may well be getting a bit of a shock as we head into the mid-game.
Yeah, it's really interesting just to think about how Style is just pulling everything right now, and he does have to go into the Trinity Force, which is pretty expensive, but he's going to get onto that breakpoint really quickly. And Artemis doesn't opt for something that can challenge from distant
Hook lance
range.
onto Kiaya. Dominus immediately burned. I hate to cut you off, Rebel. Rono P has to flash. He doesn't quite go down, but he is incredibly low. Does GAM want to continue the chase? They opt not to.
Goodness gracious. We're 11 minutes in with no kills. This is extremely uncharacteristic of VCS
2K
teams.
gold lead.
It is a 2K gold lead, which is even more shocking because usually when we have like 0-kill games, the game is really, really even. But 2K gold lead for GAM just off the back of tower plates being pulled off by Style. The Rift Herald still has been dropped by Fook1. I feel like a lot of that actually is in Style because he picked up 2 on the bottom and 3 on the top. So it's 5 full plates into the pocket of just Style alone. Has to account for a good amount of disadvantage.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's pretty much just that, and then the slight lead in the top side that is actually now being equalized by Pun. This is a Styles' chance to really show off, as Levi will manage to get away in that Cougar form. Yado with no catch. Very curious to see what this Victor can do. He is still scaling up. The CS is going well. Of course, we want to try and keep our eye on those glorious Revolution stacks. Nothing so far, just one ability evolved.
Yeah, I come to the conclusion of being able to contest Zeri as being, first off, if they can get any CC onto him, obviously, like, it's really quick to just, like, dogpile with, like, Pun and Artemis to throw in. But the biggest one I'm keeping an eye on inside of those teamfights is actually Fook1 to be able to deny Style a bunch of, like, the movement and the ability to just, like, shift around in a fight. So it's the rookie jungler coming out here from the side of Cerberus, or, like, the first time that the newbie jungler here that's coming in that really has to put a bunch of effort into making sure Style's not going to just dominate fights.
Yeah, and once again, the play is made towards mid, and Style got more tower plates. He's enormous. If you threw a toaster at him, he'd kill you.
This is... I'm not sure I understand that reference.
I'm going to be honest, I forgot that the part of dropping a toaster in a bath that kills you is the fact that there's water. In my head, I just went electricity plus electricity.
completely lost.
I've had a brain fade. Let's move on.
That's fine. I understand the reference though, because obviously Style getting super powered like this, you've gotten under Trinity Force, you're going to be getting into second item territory, and the Zarya is going to be really hard to deal with, because the damage that you can put onto him, again, if there's no engage from Fuquan or Pun or Ron OP onto that champion, is pretty much just Yado, who again is going for super safety. You got Crown right now, you got Grasp as the rune, you got like a back pocket, might be Merc Treads in the future that are going to be coming out for the likes of the Victor, and that means in the midst of a fight, like Style isn't really going to have to worry all that much if there isn't this full engage. They have to figure out some way to find engagement into a very mobile champion. I think it's very tough to do so. I feel like we're keeping track of summoners is going to be big, not only the Gragas Flash but also the Poppy Flash, just to make sure we know when they're going to be able to generate some sort of forcing engagement onto that character.
Well, speaking of throwing heavy objects at things, Style has just picked up first brick. So he's getting even further ahead. And as we touched on the fact that it's 0-0 at 15 minutes, unheard of, for sure. But look at this gold lead, Rebel. I'm about to say something. It's a little bit controversial. Is this a macro game in the VCS?
Is this a macro game? I never would have thought I'd see the day, but apparently we've entered into a new era where our top teams are macro gamers here in the VCS. What it was at one point, it was what GAM was like the only team, and then you started to have like 2 teams compete for the top of the table, and then all of a sudden there's like 3-4 teams that are competing for playoffs, and now we're getting macro. Is this turning into an actual region, Carrix? I didn't sign up for this. I'm gonna have to go find a new region to go like.
I'm not going to be tolerating this. I'm not tolerating 15 minutes without.
I won't stand for this.
I signed up to be a play-by-play in the VCS. You've been talking far too much.
I'm not used to talking this much either.
Pun on the top side has completed that chem tank on the Gragas. Is getting tankier and tankier. His tier's actually fully stacked. Hasn't actually turned him into the Ceaseless Winter and the Thimble Winter quite yet, though. As more and more mythics are coming in. It's not going to be the tanky Kali out of Cardi.
No, it is going to be full damage, which I think makes some sense because there's so few threats on the side of Cerberus. It's like if a Kali happens to be able to find basically Artemis on his lonesome or Yado on his lonesome, it just gets a full combo off and either drives him out of a fight or outright kills him. Like, that's just problematic altogether. Engagement!
And here we go. The Pikachu Ultimate has been used. Style is dealing so much damage. It'll be Fuquan, the first one to go down. Artemis does his best, but can't do enough. Gragas picks up one on the other side, but it just does not matter because GAM are cutting the heads off the dogs. Bang, bang, bang. Down they fall. The underworld is left unguarded. Yado has to run as the rest of his team melts away, and Cardi confirms the ace.
Pretty much across the board, we finally get a full engagement at 60 minutes into this one around the dragon. Cerberus are trying to give themselves some win condition by dragon stacking, but it's so late. I was worried that this was already going to be a problem, but GAM just gets a full-on play. This was started by Cerberus, too. I'm pretty sure it was Fuquan who flashed in on top of what was Levi to put him into the wall. But look where Style is. Style's in the back of the pit and just gets to throw Qs into the people in the front line. Artemis tries to put damage in, but it just doesn't matter. Style is positioned so perfectly in this fight that Cerberus can never challenge his positioning at all, and that just lets him clean everybody off the face of the map. Not to mention Kadi finally gets the one-on-one against Yado, so that means they can stop counter ganking with this annoying Poppy. Finally, Kadi gets some reprieve in terms of that one-on-one situation, and that breaks the game wide open for GAM.
Yeah, and I mean, this is this point of pain for Cerberus. Look, Fuquan, he's played a good game so far, but he just made that crucial mistake. I don't think that's a mistake Ego makes. Or if Ego does it, he's probably on a more aggressive jungler and kills someone.
Yeah. The biggest difference, I think, between what we saw from a lot of Ego in the last split and what today Fuquan has been doing is that Fuquan is facilitating a lot of what Levi has been able to accomplish, but hasn't really done anything himself. And so Cerberus is in this position where they have a composition that doesn't bode well when they're low range. They're really focused on engaging into single champions. Their range is pretty much limited to exclusively Victor, and everything else is just about getting that big AoE team fight in one specific area. But then they did nothing to set themselves onto a good foot where they have like enough gold for these champions to be able to do so. So now at gold deficit, this is really difficult to manage. It's just not a proactive style that like Ego typically would be playing into. So it's kind of rough. Hopefully, like this game continues. Obviously, like the Victor's going to continue scaling, but I feel it's difficult one way or another for this game to go in Cerberus's favor. And now with like a 6,000 gold deficit, it almost feels like the game is nearly over.
Yeah, it feels like all that's left is the crying, really. As GAM, they pick up a second Herald as well. It just gets worse and worse for Cerberus, the winter champs. Not looking great in their first outing in spring. Maybe they just don't adjust well to the warm weather. As in they go once more, Ron OP. He actually starts it off well. This is actually a really good start to a fight for Cerberus, but they're just a little bit too far behind in money. And GAM are doing everything. Artemis, he does his absolute best. Yado will pick up a kill. And now GAM's on the run. There's a full health Yado running on forward. He's not going to be interested in a fight, though. He just wants that farm. Cerberus hold for now.
They do. They're able to hold underneath this mid-inner tower, and a lot of this is off the back that Yado, first off, just got a ridiculous amount of work done, and Artemis was able to get off a good ultimate. The problem here, Style went untouched pretty much again in a fight before the back half, and so that meant that Style got to throw in additional damage that just wasn't there, and that drew down Fook1 and Ron OP in this fight. That caused both of them to drop, and so your frontliners start to dwindle. So Yado and Artemis are here with this damage, and they're like, we want to fight, but they can't do it because they can't infringe upon GAM's territory without these frontliners.
Ooh, Levi jumps forward. The gravity field goes up. Yado's actually got no mana. I think he needs to back off. He can't greed for these minions. And Rebel, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Yado's gone grasp. Yado's gone crown. Yado's going heal reduction. When does he get to do damage?
This, I believe, is a derivative of Chovy's horrid building path on Victor. the most illegal building paths I've ever seen have come from the LCK, but the VCS are not allowing ourselves to lose at absolutely anything before our run to championship at MSI, and that includes worst builds of all time. And in this case, it's super defensive, right? The intention is just to not ever die on Yado. Well, you're right. The damage is so kneecapped right now as it pertains to, like, what is going to happen. The scaling comes at, like, 4 items, maybe even into full build territory, because the grasp is all about getting the health, the reduction of damage when somebody comes into you. Yes, it's very hard to kill Yado, but Yado trying to burn through anybody on this team is already going to be a difficulty, especially if a little bit of resistance comes through, just here or there. Like, that's all that's really necessary for GAM to just be able to destroy Cerberus.
Yeah, I really think I don't want to dwell on this for too much longer, but I just have a problem with the anti-heal. I don't think it's necessary that early in the build, but let's move on. Don't want to bog things down too much. Let's talk a bit more about GAM, because they played out a different look here. They empowered Style. He got, I think, 9 tower plates. I'd have to go back and count to be exact, but I think it was 9 on this Zeri. That includes first brick. He was so accelerated. He was basically in a rocket ship. Do you like this look out of GAM?
Yeah, I've actually been
yeah,
it is working. I've been a big fan of Style for a little while. He and DivKid both have like a lot of benefits to them in the bottom side of the map, and I feel like we don't see GAM play enough to their bottom side. So this is kind of nice because this is like the Caitlyn look, where like you leave Caitlyn in the laning phase and she just pulls tower plates, and then she goes and does it elsewhere, and all of a sudden she's out of mid game and she's a superpower. And Zeri is an even worse champion to have this happen on because you're able to do so much. He's poking around into just like these tanks.
What are you gone in? Ron OP on the runaway does drop the death charge. Artemis moving over, but the first kill will be picked up by Style. There's a TP into the backside. Oh no, I don't think that's where you want to be, Pun. He gets locked up immediately. He's a very tanky boy though as he throws out that big cast. The gravity field is there, but Yado on the run. He manages to survive. The grass coming in clutch apparently as he whips another laser over the wall, but it just doesn't matter because Gamma too big. Style is too damn stylish as he picks up another. It's a 3-for-1 in the favor of GAM. They have broken the necks of Cerberus.
Another humongous fight win from the side of GAM. This time off the back of just the diving from Kadi, who hasn't been able to just like completely pop off in a game like this, but definitely has more than enough damage on the Akali to be able to run through a backliner like that. It kind of draws everybody from Cerberus in, and it takes so long for the fight to eventually get broke, but there was never really a threat onto Style, onto Levi, onto any of the really important members from GAM, and that opens up now this Baron buff. And with this, they're going to break into what is probably 10,000 gold lead, or at least close to it, maybe 8,500, 9,000, somewhere in there at absolute minimum. They're going to be able to break down all the outer structures. They're already on 2 dragons. 3 minutes from now, the waves are going to be fine for them to take the third. Feels like this is just it's a road that is either really long to a win or really short to a win, depending on how accelerated they want to play. Because they've just been kind of smurfing all day today, pretty much every single rule. GAM is doing a great job.
Yeah, 100%. I do want them to do this quickly. I always think that's one of the biggest... I mean, not just from I want to get to game 2, but I do just think it's very important that teams are able to close things out. You don't want to, particularly when we're looking at our top teams that could potentially be going international, you don't want to play long games when you don't have to. You want to end them quick, end them fast, and don't give the enemy team a chance. So I'm looking at that for GAM. Of course, this is an important split for GAM. I know, we're fairly close with Hanke, one of their coaches. He was pretty upset that they didn't win last split. It took a bit of a toll on him. Don't blame him. It sucks. They were so close as well. So I know they want to win this split, and I think they want to win it in dominant fashion.
Yeah, it's really funny because in the previous split, we talked about this right before we started, how Kiaya and Kadi were not definitively number one in their roles, and because of that, it sounded like they had an off split, right? Like we were like, oh wow, they weren't the best in the role in every single position. GAM is really having an off year, right? Like that's what happened in winter, and that was a rough place to be. Combine that with like Levi had great games, but also had quiet games, and over the last couple of splits, even back into 2020, feels like Levi hasn't necessarily lived up to the hype of just being the absolute god overlord jungler that like a lot of people saw him as for such a long time.
Artemis, he might have bitten off a little bit more than he can chew as Cardi goes gold to buy time. Levi hovers over, but everyone does manage to escape. So Cerberus at least still has a bit of fight in them.
This is ready to see what they're capable of doing. Like you said, I think it's important to be able to close out a game like this. This is the other potential number one team in the league, so I'm willing to give them a little bit of leeway if it takes a couple more minutes or another Baron take than normal. I'm all right with that just because of at least the pedigree of what Cerberus brings to a game like this. But ultimately, GAM has been looking great in a number of different places. Every single person, I think Kiaya specifically, it's really tough to kind of be like, oh yeah, Style didn't have a great game. There is a flank, but Pun doesn't want to be there, I don't think.
Yeah, this is not a flank. This is a terrified fat man, but he does manage to get out of there. I think B he walks over to the bush to recall. What the hell?
It just caught him out of nowhere. He was like standing there, and I think when Kiaya and B were there, they're like, okay, if we shift Yado over, we could potentially kill these two, get good shutdown goal. And then Style pops in out of nowhere, and they're like, nope, we're done. Nope, we're not doing this anymore. We're out of this play.
That's a 3-item Zari.
That's a Raichu. We're not playing with that. That's not a good thing. So unfortunately, that just closes things out. 3-item Zeri, like you said, also just absurdly strong at this point in the game, especially inside of a team fight. So challenging against this is going to be nigh impossible. Again, I'm just waiting for GAM to try to wrap up a game like this. I know it's a little bit difficult. Their Baron buff is gone. They have all the outer towers. The structure on the bottom side, I think it took a good amount of damage for the inhibitor tower. So if another fight win comes through, they can potentially push through bottom and eventually win. Worst case, we just wait for the dragon.
Has been caught out, and Fuquan doing his best to try and escort him out, but there's no escorting him out of this one. As Kiaya comes in, slams the trap shut. Levi pays with his life, but I don't think he cares. It is only a small price to pay for the first victory as they bear down. They are cleaning up the rest of Cerberus. 3 of them still alive, but Style goes immediately over the wall, trying to land the last bits of damage with that peanut launcher. Can't quite do it, but it's enough to get them the inhibitor, and GAM's lead only grows. They are 13k ahead, Rebel. 13k!
26 minutes, 500 gold of advantage per minute. It's kind of insane given the fact that we didn't have a kill until 18 or 7 or 16 minutes into the game. So to think about the last 10 minutes really being the massive kind of explosion of gold that has come through from GAM, to me just speaks to their ability to be very decisive as well, which is something that's, I think, defined what teams have looked really good to us and what teams have not looked good to us in terms of all 8 teams that we now have a chance to see with at least a little bit of tape, is that the ones who have really impressed us so far have been the ones that have been able to make really fast decisions or really cohesive decisions. And GAM has been showing us that in spades over the last 10 minutes of this game.
Yeah, 100%. The shot calling looks... obviously, we can't hear it, but it looks like it's on point. But let's have a look at Artemis. They do everything they can to try and save him.
Yeah, props to B being able to get a small engagement to be able to get Levi and Kadi into that backline. This is where things got a little bit rough because Style was a little far back for this fight to actually continue. So it ended up being a trade. I know Ron OP went down. I was hoping Yado would be able to put in more damage. And again, this is the talk of like the grasp and the really defensive. Oh, we're right into a team fight.
Of course we are, and Artemis has already fallen. Oh, this is a penta angle all of a sudden. He's got the triple kill, he's got the quadra kill, and Rebel is moving on forward. They need Team Rocket to come get this Pikachu. Style's got penta. They're moving into the Nexus, and here he is. He's coming to play.
what could we have possibly thought about day number 1 for GAM and their game up against Cerberus? We were thinking, oh, this is going to be close. Oh, this is going to be competitive between our top 2 teams. Nope! Style comes in smurfing on the Zeri with a pentakill to start things off. GAM's not taking names this split. They're done. This is their league right now.
Zeri is a completely fine champion that's got no issues whatsoever. What a performance out of Style on the newest champion to League of Legends. How many years design was that taking? I don't know, a few. But my word, did GAM play that one well, Rebel?
They did. They had a miraculous that against another top competitor. That was about as big a statement win as you could possibly have. Yes, I know we haven't seen them interact with any other team so far, but for GAM to have that dominant of a win to start off the series has to be a little bit shaking for Cerberus. I think our analyst desk also was not super high on what Cerberus was doing in this draft. I agree. Ultimately, I think there was a lot of disaster there. So hopefully they could fix things up for game number 2 and they can give themselves a bit more action in the beginning of the game.
And of course, we do have a game 2 and potentially a game 3 if Cerberus can bounce back with GAM looking that dominant. I might be getting an early night, but we will be going on a short little break. I'll have to deal with this little rapscallion, and our analyst desk will be breaking down game 1 in just about 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. We just saw GAM absolutely clap Cerberus. A little bit of revenge. Probably very sweet after that lost final. Once again, we are here on VCS English. Maybe for the last time as a post-match. Apart from the very closing one. So that was a mute point. But whatever. We saw Cerberus struggling in every position, basically. No one did anything. Artemis failed to have any impact. Fuquan, actually probably the most impressive player with his coverage of mid lane. But Victor had interesting things to say about this game in terms of build. Tim, let's start with you. Let's not so much focus on Cerberus, because that was just not what we wanted to see. Why is GAM suddenly a team without kills at 11 minutes? What happened to them?
Honestly, I like that you don't want to talk about Cerberus, but I think this was all about Cerberus. I don't even know that GAM came into this game and was like, yeah, let's not do anything for 15 minutes straight. It was literally, Cerberus was just content of losing every position. Like, Cerberus didn't do anything. They played, I mean, the Victor was griefing with his item build. Samira was down, 15 CS and sitting under her turret permanently against one of the weakest laning champions to exist right now. Which is Zeri. The only weakness Zeri has is that her laning phase is horribly bad. Her level 1 is so exploitable that she's losing to Jinx and multiple times getting solo killed in higher leagues. So yeah, like when you start losing level 1 your lane against Zeri, then something is going massively wrong. And then nothing. Like Cerberus was just content to die in the corner, and there was no fight, there was nothing. Like, and then GAM just ran over the game. They snowballed well. They had good rotations. They punished the objectives the Cerberus ended up taking very well with just fighting on style and ran over the game. But it's not like they did something crazy to win the game. They just exploited that Cerberus wasn't ready to do anything.
Yeah, you saw the pretty much the big carries from Cerberus were allergic to winning. You had the Samira pick, which meant you ceded a lane to Zeri, which is the worst thing to do, and Yado built no damage. So despite playing out that 2v2 fairly well with Fuquan being able to completely deny whatever Cardi and Levi were trying to do, it resulted in nothing because Cardi threw that gold in the dumpster. Sorry, not Cardi. Yado threw the gold in the dumpster. Then you have top just naturally losing, and you get a pretty nice advantage for it, which explodes when Cerberus tries to make something happen. Fuquan flashes in, but his follow-up is immediately cancelled because the rest of Cerberus has to funnel through a choke, which gets blocked off by a glacial fissure. Pun's a bit late on the TP, and so when the actual fight begins, it's already a 4v5 because Fuquan was 1v5 for a good 10 seconds. And from there, it was into a clean ace, into a complete win, because the snowball from there was just too much, and there's nothing that Cerberus could do from there.
And what a statement game from Style, honestly. New champion playing against the best ADC, unanimously voted MVP, basically. Almost everyone was convinced by Artemis. And, I mean, he rightfully won the MVP last season. But, yeah, Style coming back in as the starting ADC today and clapped him in laning phase, played team fights, honestly, almost to perfection. Maybe a little too hesitant for me on the ultimate. Not really sure why he held his ultimate so long when Zeri ultimate just keeps on stacking if you activate it early. But apart from that minor criticism, he ended with a pentakill 8-0-8 plus 5k gold over his opponent in Artemis. So maybe 2022 is the year of Style. He was promised as one of the up and coming stars of the league and never really met the full potential of the hype. But yeah, this is a good showing. I want to go on the other side, Cerberus. Let's zone out a little bit from this gameplay, because there isn't really much to take away from it. Before we go into draft, talk about the implications, because I think if they just get run over here again, it's honestly not too bad. They're still missing their main jungler. They only play one series this week, so can they get away with this weak performance, maybe?
They should be able. They can definitely survive a loss to GAM, as GAM is projected to be one of, if not the strongest team in the league. So it's not too bad. I would be very upset if they got run over while trying to play like a more standard sort of style, because that would be like, oh, then there's actually no hope for Cerberus, because you can very easily point to a few things and write off their last game as just, well, this was doomed from the get-go.
So let's go into draft, and we see Zeri banned from Cerberus on blue side, so maybe Artemis is not ready.
Together with Renekton, that's really interesting because I feel like Renekton really wasn't the issue, he was more of a symptom. Yes, he got ahead, but again, it wasn't really like the Renekton was sort of winning the game, and he could have found answers there, but still they're taking it all together with Victor and Zeri, so they're banning their own Victor here basically, and that might just be going towards the Corki first pick. Usually when I see those mid lane bans in different leagues, it is often Corki first pick, but it ends up being the Gwen instead.
What is up with Gwen priority in VCS today? What is happening?
Gwen priority is good. Gwen's kind of nuts. I think with the bans that you put in place, it didn't really signify a Gwen first pick at all, but I think GAM's pretty happy locking in a bot lane here. Going off that Karma could just be a Karma Jinx, fairly strong 2v2 to work with.
That's true.
I mean, when we see Karma, it's usually Ezreal or Jhin we're thinking about, and it ends up being the Jhin, one of those long range options, and Jhin usually facilitates a weak side comp, so I'm expecting something very aggressive to be picked into the Gwen, maybe Camille, for example, to give that gank setup for Levi to play around the top side, because, well, Karma Jhin is not going to be movable with any lane. Like, you're not going to be able to push out Karma Jhin out of lane, and it's going to be a very stable position there for GAM, but it's more of the weak side play that we're used to from the bot lane from GAM.
Unfortunately, now we have to watch Jhin.
Oh, the Janna Karma matchup. Let's go. I'm feeling this one.
God, no.
This is not a good Janna matchup, no?
I don't care about the matchup. I'm feeling the champions.
I mean...
Yeah, I don't think that genre is the way to go. The Yuumi, that makes a lot more sense.
Gwen Yuumi.
Because as the game progresses, you can drop that on the Gwen, and Gwen is absolutely unstoppable at that point. So it seems to be a fairly standard, well, not so much standard, but very good first three for Cerberus. They can round that out with a strong AD carry like the Aphelios, but because I don't think you can pinch Artemis out too much, so you're probably better off focusing your bans towards the jungle and trying to hurt Fib1.
So I want to put something by you guys, is when C9 in their first draft picked the Gwen, there was something very specific said in a stream later on, and that's actually said that was a Quadra flex pick. So are we seeing Artemis Gwen bot lane together with the Yuumi?
No, we are not. I think they actually set up this Twitch here, and GAM read the Twitch coming from miles away. I love this Twitch ban, because Twitch Yuumi is one of those combinations that's known as one of the true hyper carry late game combinations that can just take over games, and there's very little you can actually do against Twitch Yuumi if they get going. And Artemis has already shown us an insane Twitch performance, so I love this read. I hate that they have banned it, because I wanted to see Artemis Twitch. But instead, now, I see a little bit of an issue with AD damage on Cerberus. So far, everything is AP, and maybe they go a Gwen jungle, which we have seen a lot of, and then double, they can't go double AD to solo lanes, but at least a strong AD threat in the top lane.
Yeah, and that's a big question. What do you pick with the Yuumi? You could go towards the Aphelios. I think that's the only AD carry that is still up, together with the Ezreal. But again, you talked about it, very much AP damage already. Ezreal would just bring more AP damage to the table, not really the AD option you want. And on the other hand, it might be the Levi Lee Sin already. Definitely a signature champion for him as well, where he can dominate the early game.
Whoa.
It is going to be a Hecarim instead.
Zillion.
Oh god. It's not.
I can see the Zillion. This is the Zillion angle.
Honestly, it wouldn't be bad. I think
it would be very
you already
good.
have enough damage.
Terrible
And
damage.
I think at that point, you just put the Karma full AP in mid lane and you pick Zillion bot, and you're completely fine.
That's interesting as well. We've seen a lot of Zillion picks in solo queue, and a lot of people have started complaining about the elo-inflated Zillion players, like Kadrill himself. So
There's no elo inflation going on in Gabriel's stream. No. It is Lucian Yumi on bot lane.
Yes,
and
I love this draft.
I despite that lane. I think like Lucian is a very lane strong AD carry who wants to have the support of a lane strong support, and Yumi is not that. Yumi is absolutely horrendous in lane, and I think you just picked a massively losing Lucian lane. Like Jin Karma is gonna giga clip you on bot lane if they're not getting caught out by Yumi ulti into Lucian ulti or something. So no, please stop it.
I would like something that can just sort of farm waves very effectively. Things like the Jinx, for example, can just murder those waves with the rocket form. This topside pun Tryndamere. It's gone into, so you've gone for the winning lane matchup, trying to move the Gwen out from the Jace, and that's definitely an option. But will we see the Tryndamere trend continue of getting clapped? Probably not so likely because there's no meal this time. But pun doesn't really scream Tryndamere play to me.
What I like about this draft is
on the
something
other
you
hand-
said, Marby, is you don't want to see them play standard and lose, so they did absolutely everything to not play standard. So if they lose now, you can just say, hey, our draft was a little bit out there, so, the draft is to blame. I mean, they decided on this draft. I don't think we have much time, because they moved very quickly today. So let's start with you, Tim. Who is going to win this game?
Oh, GAM's absolutely gonna stomp again. Kiaya, by the way, I think has Ignite, so he's probably gonna just smash the tournament lane. Bot lane is losing, mid lane is losing. GG, well played. GAM 2-0, easy.
Yeah, I think should be able to pretty much run this over. If it goes ultra late, Cerberus have the angle, but yeah, I don't think it's getting there.
Hey, and we nailed the transition. We are on to the Rift, and maybe for the last time today, but we are all hoping for a third game. Carrix and Rebel, take it away.
There's heresy on the Rift, Rebel. There's disgusting sin being committed on my beautiful Summoner's Rift. There's a Tryndamere being picked. I'm not happy about it. I'm very upset.
I get upset when I see Tryndamere, the fact that it is a meta champion. I get more upset when I continue to see Kadi not pick Anivia. At some point, he's going to pick me Anivia because it needs to happen. This was an angle for it, and I'm upset about it. But the Tryndamere for pun is an interesting grab because he was the frog man, right? Like, he's the Mundo man. He's pun V9 on the Pundo, but here he is, and now he's Tryndamere.
Tryndamere.
Tryndamere is pretty good. I'll take that one instead.
And I mean, look, I hate Tryndamere. He's a horrible champion. I want him to go rot in a hole. The rework should be they just break his arms. Fine by that, but we'll move past my personal hatred. Kiaya's brought an Ignite. Clearly he agrees that Tryndamere deserves to be sent to a fiery death.
Yeah, and Pun has also gone for a bit of an interesting selection of summoner spells as well, because he's got the Ghost for the laning prowess, but he also goes for the Teleport, understanding that Kiaya could definitely drive him out in the wrong situation. So the intention of both having some split push pressure in the later stages, but the Ghost being more valuable up against the Jace than the Flash might be, because of the ability of Jace to stand pretty far back and also the dislodge with the hammer. I guess Pun just values the movement speed, the longer amount of time to be able to capitalize on running down the Jace in the laning phase when the time comes.
Yeah, I guess it makes a little bit of sense. Also, in team fights, allows you to stick to a rise potentially, running around with phase rush. I think it does make a fair bit of sense. What do you think about the bot lanes? Because the analysts were talking about how the matchup's a bit weird, all of that jazz. What do you think about this Jin Karma lane up against the Lucian Yumi? Because I think Artemis is actually in a really good position to dominate.
Yeah, so Artemis not only gets like the pocket Yumi to assist him, but also gets to take Ignite in this lane, which is disgusting that like he gets to play super aggressive if he wants to. To me, this was decided at level 1. It looked like somehow Style and B lost the push of the wave up against Artemis, and because of that, now he just gets complete control of this these next couple of ways corresponding. They have to respect Artemis's. Oh yeah, just a cover from Levi.
Even
Yep,
if they can
they're
just
right.
force him off, the ghost is being burned though. They're going under tower. They want this Tryndamere. He spins, but he doesn't win, Rebel. He goes down. He burns. And Kiaya gets first blood.
What an excruciatingly clean dive from Levi and
Yeah.
Kiaya right there. Performed to perfection.
That was beautiful.
It really was, yeah. He ran in, dumped every ounce of damage he had into Pun before the first tower shot even landed, and then walked out, soaked one additional shot for Kiaya to put in the remaining damage. They just left. Like, that was it. It was like, Levi could go back to farming. He doesn't even need to full back if he didn't want to, but he's going to one way or another because that's the position they put him in. But what a great setup here from Levi, who has a massive impact. You don't think of him as a Hecarim player, but this was really clean.
Yeah, and as you said, he goes in, dumps all the damage. Kiaya gets the perfect amount. He presses S for just a moment. Kiaya barely takes any damage, and I mean, that's just a textbook dive. There's nothing else to say. Look, I don't know what Hanke has been feeding these guys, but it's working.
It is. This is at least so far what they've shown, especially like. It's even tougher because like I was thinking about last game too, and I remember our desk talking about how like they didn't actually accomplish much. And GAM did not. Oh, actually,
Style takes a lot of damage. He has to flash away, but he goes down. But in comes the horse. Yumi can't get back inside. Artemis will go down. Mono P, he is the goodie bag added to the Halloween candy, and the horse is here to collect. Never mind, stolen away by Karma. Double kill for B.
Be able to snag both of those. The trade-off for Artemis being able to snag at least one kill during that exchange. You can see the kind of abuse that the Lucian can put into these two if they aren't playing very carefully around the fact that the Lucian has very early damage. There they got a little bit more lax because they had the cover from Levi, but GAM runs into Fook1, who's on the counter jungle.
Yeah, he is dashing away, manages to do it well, but he's not having the impact that Levi is having. Yado, Valkyrie's away, has to play it a little bit careful as Pun forced out of lane. Kiaya dominating this top lane matchup, and GAM are just winning everywhere.
Set off on a great foot. I want to come back to this point because it's also very relevant to what happened right here, because Artemis went down, got kind of rooted up by B, and the play comes through. But in the previous game, Levi's ganks didn't stick, but he was still putting a bunch of pressure into the lane between what was Yado and Kadi, with Kadi being on the melee champion. It could have been a really rough laning phase for Kadi because he's into a grasp Victor, but the constant pressure from Levi was forcing Fook1 to just cover all the time, and it felt like it was almost more of a 2v2 lane. So yes, he didn't really accomplish all that much, but it wasn't that Levi had no presence. It's just that Cerberus wasn't letting him have all these like free ganks into the mid lane that were accomplishing that much. But it wasn't like he wasn't felt around the map. Like Levi was showing up. Now on the Hecarim, that presence is being felt a lot more directly, especially by Pun, where this is now the third time in a row that Pun has had to just leave his tower.
Levi has clearly been going to Sunday school. He understands what is good and godly, and what is good and godly is putting Tryndamere in the dirt. He's only level 5. He's a level down on the enemy jungler as the wave crashes. He has 30 farm at 7 minutes, and I love to see it. And now Levi moves into the mid lane. Yado has absolutely no recourse as the Hecarim ult follows him over the wall, takes him down. Now Fook is going to have a play with the pony, uses that first, and the Realm Warp, though, gets him out, takes him directly to World 8, and they'll be fighting Bowser momentarily.
It's a really weird play. At first there, I was a little curious why Kadi was deciding to flash and then just throw a root onto Yado underneath the tower, only to see that Levi was around the edge. And it actually forced Kadi to take tower aggro, once again jungled perfectly between the solo laner of GAM and between Levi, who's once again forced himself into a dive situation on this Hecarim, where he's been able to have a lot more impact than what happened in the previous game with the Nidalee. Again, it's just been very tangible what's been taken by Levi so far inside of this game, and it's yielding very solid results.
It certainly is. This is as clean as we've seen GAM in a very, very long time. And a clean GAM is a terrifying GAM, Rebel, because they're not a team that needs to be clean to win. They've got the hands to play a bit of a mud wrestle, but they're not even sweating.
They're not. This isn't a position where they need to mud wrestle. It's just they're kind of just muscling. It's like arm wrestling contests where everybody's like, GAM is the biggest one in the room and nobody wants to do it because they're like, oh, he's just going to smash everybody. But it's just happening anyway because GAM is enforcing their willpower upon Cerberus. it's a situation where, like, I don't know, this is a GAM of old. This is like where we expected GAM to be pretty much every other split. The difference is we got our first glimpse of what it looks like when GAM are actually mortals and there are other teams that could potentially contest. And somehow, like you said, I don't know what it is that Hankei has been feeding or been able to do with this team or what the rest of the team has been able to accomplish, but it's clear that they have reascended to this immortal status, at least up against Cerberus here.
100%. Fuqua will get a bit of a consolation prize of an uncontested Rift Herald, so that's nice. They're actually not as far down in gold as you might expect. They're only about 2k gold down as Artemis, with Ron P moving back down here. It is only going to be the one tower plate taken in exchange for the Rift Herald. Actually, the second one might just go down. Can they deny it? They can. That was not picked up by anyone.
Very close.
So, not bad.
Not at all. It's just a situation, though, where it feels like, again, Cerberus is without an attacking move across the map. Right now, Fuqua is farming very effectively and matching, more than matching what is happening with Levi, about 2 camps up right now. Well, now about a camp up. They're effectively the same farm, all things considered. Ooh, coverage for Pun. Kiai, I think, actually spotted him there because he wasn't quite in the brush at the time. So Fuqua not going to be able to get away with any sign of shenanigans. Kiai should... Again, I'm pretty sure he caught a glimpse of him there for a second. I didn't get a vision toggle. So
I don't think he'd be playing this far back if he didn't,
Yeah.
but ooh, maybe we're wrong.
Frank,
The needlework doesn't quite land, but it doesn't matter because he does get the auto attack, but then just bang, knocks him away easy enough, and Artemis is very low, and out comes the symphony, but the cat has knocked the instruments over.
Darn. We didn't get the bullet bending possibility from Style. He wasn't able to find the angle around the cat. He was just able to block enough of those last shots.
But you know what beats cats?
Horses.
And here comes Levi. He's not actually going to go in, though. Oh, but you know what beats Corky's? Rises.
Evidently, that is the case. I remember yesterday, yesterday on the desk, I was able to make too many jokes about mid laners being able to succeed on Rise. So once again, it's Kadi who's going to be able to step over the likes of Faker and Chovy and all those fantastic mid laners who currently don't have wins here. Mostly because Yato cannot figure out how to play the Corki into this champion. That's twice now the kills have gone into the mid lane. Everybody's been set onto a good foot, right? Kiai's had no struggles now into the top side. Kadi's having no problems in the mid lane. Levi's just running things. And the bot lane was the only place where we were like, maybe Artemis and Ron OP with the right setup could actually get some things done. They were able to trade 1 kill, but even that has now just been completely thwarted. It feels like there isn't enough gold in Artemis to really take over the bottom lane as much as they need to because of the winning setup that's come about from GAM.
Yeah, it really feels like Levi, he drifted up towards the top side a couple of times, then went, right, Kiaya, you've got this now, mate, off you go. Went to the mid lane, picked up that kill, went, right, Cardi, you've got this now, off we go, and now he's onto the bot lane. He's just... Levi came in, just put his thumb on the scales, and that's all the GAM players need. They don't need a cam.
Yeah, it's like that picture, you know that meme with like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Splinter, where Splinter has them as like children, and then like they all grow up around him and they're carrying him. Yeah, Levi is Splinter here. He's just ganking around the map, and all of his little Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle children are going to grow up and be able to carry him throughout the remainder of the game. Although, in this analogy, also, Levi is still going to be full strength Splinter as well.
Yeah, he's moving in. He hits the ultimate directly in onto Yato. There's a lot of healing out of the Yumi, but not quite enough. She pops out now. Fuqua has to find a way out of this one. He is immune for just a moment, throws out the needles. The cat does get back inside. And the 2 Cerberus members will manage to limp away from this one, but Yato's plane has crashed.
Yeah, not much to be able to contest with here. Fuqua is with basically a nearly dead Yumi, and Fuqua on his own doesn't have a completed item even, so it's just going to be turret plates traded back. I will say they were able to pick up good gold. They got 3 of the plates and almost a 4th off of the mid tower, so that's something. But in the meantime, I mean, mid lane's losing towers, top lane, Kiai is just pulling off plates, and even bottom lane, Artemis is denied from getting anything. So across the map, just getting kind of choked out is GAM, making sure Cerberus has nothing to their back pocket.
Yeah, look. Oh, Style's going to open up with the guns. Immediately, Artemis just goes, no thanks, and just rips out the culling. But I think the realms are getting warped. I think, Lucian, you're in a little bit of trouble, buddy. And down he goes.
That was rough. Poor Artemis and Style just decided to have a little bit of a pissing match in that bottom lane with their ultimates before, unfortunately, the Rise gets to warp in because too much time was burned. So Kadi alongside Bede, they get to realm warp to the bottom lane, and all of a sudden Artemis realizes that this was not a place that he needed to be. Tries to trade something, but this game's, I'm feeling lost once again this early in. 13 minutes, it feels weird to say that. But 6k gold, GAM's results are speaking for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that contest was going okay for Artemis, but then Cardi walked into the bathroom with his stream hitting the roof. So didn't end up how you like it. As the bot lane tower is being taken down, Star once again the beneficiary of a first brick. No, I tell a lie, it's not first brick because top lane tower's already fallen. Kiaya has gotten that one. This Tryndamere has done nothing this game, and I don't know if it will go long enough for him to scale into this one.
Interesting decision from Pun as well, who decides instead of going for like the Gale Force or something along those like Kraken Slayer even, it looks like either Gore Drinker, maybe it's I cannot remember the other one.
Stridebreaker?
Stridebreaker, yeah, that's what it is. Because it used to have the dash on it, but then nobody's built it ever since it has it. It might be that because if you get on top of the JC and he has Phase Rush, if you use the Stridebreaker, all of a sudden he's slow again, and then you can just run him down. But like, I don't know. Either way, I don't like it as much as Gale Force. I feel like Gale Force accomplishes both just better than what those items do.
And Yado is locked and loaded with the package here. Could potentially make up for this enormous gold deficit. 7,000 gold, Rebel. Oh my god. Is Levi coming in very quick, but just surfs on away. Doesn't want to overcommit. There's no need to. No need to throw things away as another Rift Herald has just come onto the map. And Cerberus, I don't think they've got too much of an entry for this one.
No, they do have the package, like you said. It actually just expired on Yada, so he's not going to be able to use that one effectively. That's just kind of poorly timed.
They're moving forward. There's the final chapter being ripped out, but Yado's already burning down. He'll have absolutely no contribution to this fight. Levi just coming in, playing body horse. As Pun has burnt the Undying Rage as well. Kiaya comes forward, brings down the hammer. Lightning strikes. Tryndamere falls. And Cerberus... I mean, look, after the last series and after this one, maybe Flash and Cerberus have switched some bodies.
They really might have. Oh, Levi's just living underneath the tower here.
That was just BM. I feel like he's didn't do anything. He just walked in and went, yeah, I can stand in the middle of the three of you. I don't care. Realm Wolf comes out. Oh, God, this is... Cut the tape. Cut the tape.
I feel like Levi could press
Throw in
E
the towel.
Yeah, you could press E and Ghost into the middle of the team and just like run up, press his S key, stop, dance for a second, and then run right back out, and they wouldn't be able to accomplish anything. Feels really bad for just how powerful that the horse is right now. He hasn't even started the Fimble Winter. He's going for the play!
0-3 Tryndamere. I love it. I'm happy. I'm so happy. I promise I'm not biased to GAM. I'm just biased against Tryndamere. No matter who picks it. Let's have a replay on this one. This was basically a solo kill out of Kiaya. Pun bought a lot of time with the ultimate, bought a lot of time with the spins, but it just doesn't matter.
Nah, too fast. As well as the rest of the team is kind of around. They were looking to set up a Rift Herald. They had 4 members here, and a 5th was kind of coming into the area. So now Rift Herald ends up getting taken by GAM after a little bit of time. They're already up 9,000 gold, though. They don't even need this necessarily. Shirley is just going to be in their back pocket for whenever they decide to start pushing for some serious damage, if they can find a nice effect on the map. You also can appreciate that it's a Hextech Rift, which allows them to get out on the map a little bit faster. Cerberus doesn't like that. Cerberus doesn't want them to be able to walk onto the side of the map as quickly as what these portals allow, but here we are where GAM is going to be able to deploy so quickly out of their base with these that now all of a sudden they're going to be able to use this massive advantage even more effectively than what they would have with any other sort of break.
Yeah, I agree. Particularly as well, the Hextech Soul is statistically the most powerful soul. I don't think this goes to Soul. Honestly, I'd be a bit disappointed in GAM if it does. But should the game drag out, that is a bonus for them. Culling is used as Fook comes in with a cat on his back. They will pick up a shutdown onto Karma. That's a bit of gold into the pocket of the Lucian, but it just doesn't matter because Fook is going to fall down 1 for 1. And oh, Pun, you don't want to be there, my lad. That ultimate is not going to do enough. Kiaya does not go down. It's a double kill picked up for Levi.
Very well played right here. GAM, they find themselves on like the aggressive end of Cerberus, they're just trying to pull something back at this point, but it's not enough. And now Shirley's going to be used in the mid lane to be able to dash down and try to pull this one. Levi continues on his trend of just running to the side and attacking from that distance. This is just to zone them off the tower. And now with mid tower taken after the drop, they're going to potentially be able to redeploy. They have a minute until the next dragon, so it's a little bit of a late back if the side of Cerberus really want to push into the river and try. But I feel like they're down so much gold. that even if they had full river control, it's just not going to matter. There's nothing that they really do to prevent GAM from just bullying them around in this game.
Yeah, it's very, very true. I think it would take a astronomical series of errors from GAM for this to mean anything, honestly. Maybe in 40 minutes, Pun at 6 items can do something. We'll see. But I don't think we're getting there, Rebel. I really, really don't.
Even for Stridebreaker, would you look at that? He really is listening. Okay. I don't think it's a good choice, but this is at least something within the realm of my theory crafting. That's like, okay, if Jace is going to have the ability to dislodge with his E and he's got Phase Rush, you have to do something to slow him further. I still think Gale Force is just better for this. But I mean, I guess Pun decided to go for this.
You know what I think would actually... you know what I think would have been really good for Pun? Not going 0-4.
Yeah, that would have been helpful. Maybe not playing Trinamir so that we weren't biased against him. That probably would have been helpful as well.
As another Drake has been pulled here by GAM. Cerberus do want to have a crack at it. Look, I respect this. Don't just slowly die. Just throw... Oh my god, Yano. Where'd he go? Oh my word, where does his health bar go? He does have a Yumi though, so the poke doesn't stick quite as hard. The package is here, and in comes the pony. One has been caught out. Yano has to package away. Gwen has been slain. She's not immune. And GAM just returned to the dragon. They only get 1 kill, but it's the kill they need. And this is just a slaughter.
I can't even just express how incredible the amount of damage did to Kiai just did to Yano was, because he's like, he has the package and they're like, okay, maybe with the package, if we get a perfect usage here and we're able to express this and use the rest of our team to follow up, maybe we can team fight. And then he just immediately down to 40% of his health bar. It's like, all right, never mind. He gets healed up by Ron OP, only to have the exact same thing happen a second time down to 20% and has to get out of dodge as fast as possible. Really, Cerberus just has absolutely no legs to stand on. They lose the dragon, so they're going to start towards stacking. That doesn't even matter. The Baron is going to be maybe something they could use to push into the base. And now, this is a little bit forward from Cerberus. I feel like they do not want this fight.
Yeah, GAM, I think, playing very respectfully here. I think they recognize that Cerberus was on a reset. So despite the fact that it's a 10,000 gold lead, if they're carrying a lot of gold, it's actually a lot closer than that should be. I still think they could have turned and just won that fight, but hey, why risk it? Just take the Baron, head home, come back out onto the map, and that's exactly what they'll do.
Yeah. And now there's a number of tough scenarios that Cerberus has been put into, but just like counting a couple of them. First things first, the Karma has built Putrefier immediately, and that means that like Ron OP, the healing is going to get denied. Pun is not strong in the slightest right now. Levi's too tanky for anybody to deal with. Like everything has come to
just pops ghosts and just runs.
Right. He's running out of fights, which is not what you want as Trinamir. You want to step in and you want to auto attack people, but it's not going to be the case. This was not Pun's game, unfortunately.
Look, this is, come in, pick Tryndamere, go 0-4, refuse to answer questions, leave. It's real Sigma grind set out of Pun. You've got to respect it.
Oh, goodness. I'm in a position where, like, Pun... He made his name playing all these like kind of like stone wally top laners. It's a little shocking for him to go for something this aggressive, and you can see why. Pun isn't a bad player, but he kind of got bodied when it came to the carry versus carry potential of Kiaya. That's kind of not his forte. So seeing him step out of that, maybe they're desperate to try to find somebody who could do some more damage, other than with the loss of their jungler with Fuke1 in the lineup, but it's just not working.
Yeah, I feel like they really are feeling the loss of ego as they try and make a play there. Levi goes low, but low is not dead, as the Jhin ultimate as well gives them so much cover to back away. They take the inhibitor. Again, I respect Cerberus. They're going in when they can. They're not dying quietly, but they are dying.
Yeah, it was a cute little Rise ultimate right there from Coddy to try to put some minions on the top tower. It wasn't quite enough, and the Baron buff, unfortunately, wasn't able to keep the minions alive long enough to pull that one. But at this point, it feels like GAM is just kind of playing with their food. They're 23 minutes in with like a 12,000 gold lead. I think this is even higher than what we had in the previous game before this point in the game. the one egregious part of this is, again, without the dragons having been taken basically on spawn timer for like the first 10 minutes of the game or something, it means that these teams aren't getting to the soul point, which is what can really drive these games to end at like 28 minutes guaranteed. Is like if you're threatening Hex Tech Soul and Cerberus is like, we need to challenge to make sure it doesn't work, or they don't take it, that's what can just like give you a 5-on-5 to win the game outright. And here, GAM is gonna have to wait at least 6.5 minutes before the soul point is really driven. Okay, what just happened? Artemis just got run down by Connie.
Yeah, he did. That's not what you want.
No,
but
no,
this
no,
is
no.
already a level 15 rise. He's actually only got 2 kills. Cardi having a bit of a quiet one. Hasn't been required to do anything.
No.
So that's definitely not a knock against him.
Oh.
As they go forward once again, they're going to take a second inhibitor, third. In fact, I can count good, I promise. As that is 24 minutes, 3 inhibitors down. The Nexus Towers are going to be the next ones. Under siege, Cerberus, just go. You've got to go for the fight. You've got a package. As Fook1 is going to put up that Hallowed Mist, goes forward with the needlework, trying to do everything she can, but it's not quite much. As she goes gold for a moment, the package only goes over a golden Cardi. Yado gets taken down. Levi, will he fall? It's a consolation prize. Hey, Pun adds his name to the scoreboard, but he will not be adding it to the winners list as GAM walk in with a second dominant performance. The first game went a little bit too long. The second one comes in under the Union mandated 26 minutes as the Nexus is under siege. GAM, oh my word, they did not take losing that winter final well.
No. Or I guess in a very other real sense, maybe they did take it very well because they understood that they needed to make some drastic changes.
Yeah,
it transformed their gameplay, and that's exactly what happened. GAM looking like a completely new team. I'm not sure if this is Cerberus who've deteriorated a little bit, whether or not it's a completely different Cerberus that isn't looking like the number 2 team in the entire league. But GAM is certainly looking like the number 1. I can say that with definitive, without any reason. They were far and away the most impressive team we saw here in this week number 1.
Yeah, I don't think there's any competition in that front. Oh, sorry about that. Someone got excited at the concept of an air conditioner. It's crazy. But we will be going immediately back over to our analyst desk. It's going to be a good night from myself and Rebel Fox. We hope you enjoyed the casting. Analyst desk, take it away. Break down the slaughter.
Well, I'm not entirely sure what to say about this game. It was another slaughter, as Carrick's put it, even faster than the first one. Cerberus really didn't show up today, but even a full-strength Cerberus would have had trouble to get a game today against this GAM. They looked so dominant. Let's start from the top. We had Kiaya with Tim. You said before the series started you saw some good, some bad last split. Are you a little bit more convinced of Kiaya's dominance in the VCS context today?
Okay, let's be frank here. I mean, those 2 games were overall the series was a shit stomp. I have to put it like that. There's no other word that I like to phrase that in. And Kiaya, especially in the second game, was a huge part of it. I mean, he was clapping top lane in the first game. He was also dominating it, but it's Renekton and Gragas. It's a slow matchup. You're not gonna really find any solo kills or anything. In the second game, it was one dive that he needed, and then the Trinamir got completely clapped. And we saw in every single team fight, Yado was just taking the shock blast one after another. Kiaya was absolutely keeping the mid laner from Cerberus out of any fight. And if you think Corki can poke well, you haven't met a fat Jace yet, and he really showed that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it feels so strange. Like GAM obviously came in and was absolutely dominating, but something's gone wrong at Cerberus because it's not even just like, oh, they lost ego. Now they kind of lack direction, but they're still the same players. No, the players were just not good. Like I don't think anyone played up to the standard we expect. Yado was the biggest fall off, but even Artemis, I'm just very unimpressive. What's happened?
Yeah, I think we should probably just not look at this series. I think next week is really important for Cerberus. If they continue to perform like this and fall to other teams, then we can go back to this series and maybe think about what were the first signs. But I think for today, I am willing to give them a pass. They've just overcome the choking narratives. They've won the winter split, so I think we can write them off. Maybe they weren't ready for this week. They only had to play one series against the best team, or the second best team in power ranking at least. So I think we should probably give them a pass for now, cut them some slack. But next week we're going to come back and examine that team much more. So let's focus on the winning side. GAM came in with something we haven't seen much. The Hecarim pick here is intriguing to me. Everything was dominated so far by Xin Zhao, by Jarvan. We saw some Viego early on, even in Italy, but no Hecarim, and he went tank Hecarim too. So are we going to see more Hecarim?
Oh yeah, take it away.
Hecarim, yeah, it's been picking up a little bit of steam across some of the other regions. It's found a few picks in LPL. Tian just played it today. Hasn't been particularly successful, but it's been picked up a little bit in the LPL. They're giving it a few runs, and it's doing okay. It's doing all right. Definitely not one of those top tier junglers, but at least Levi rather has a tendency to just pick whatever the hell he wants. I am expecting to see some Zac, for example, throughout this tournament. I'm really excited for that because that's my new one trick. But yeah, more Zac plays. Just more Levi. Levi's just smurfed that game. It was absolutely great from him, and he continues to play whatever the hell he wants. He's just too good.
And Tim, I want to give you a bigger thing. If you want to chime in, please do right now.
One thing for the Hecarim pick, what surprised me is, in Solo Queue he has been picking up some steam. Played with the tank item, but then actually Mana Mooner as a second item, which gives you a massive amount of damage because it procs on your Q. And then you are very tanky and you bring a lot of damage, and it's a very cheap item. So we have seen that a bit, but he didn't build that, which surprised me a bit. But then again, he didn't really need the damage. His entire team was fed, so he could just play for the front line. But I expect we might see it a few times, especially if the top junglers are banned out. But it surprised me a bit here that it was picked over things like the Lee.
Excites me for SGB, actually, even though they didn't play. But I always have to talk about SGB. You all know this by now. But BJ in the Hecarim meta was quite good. So maybe just a little tease. But I want to maybe end on a little bit of a different note. So I know it's just one series so far, but as we VCS fans, we tenured VCS fans, always get a little bit scared when these kind of performances come in from GAM, because we have seen them dominate the whole league, wipe the floor with everyone, and every single GAM match was just, oh, can they break their own record? So I'm going to pose the question of, are they that tier buff this year? I mean, we have seen just one series of every team, so it's super early overreaction time, but do you think in this split they could be once again 2019 summer form where they just dominate everyone, there's no question about who's going to win 6-0 in playoffs and so on? And if that's the case, my next question would be, how do they keep improving? What do they try to improve even when they smashed people in 22, 23 minutes every single game? How can they keep focus and perform well internationally?
So, I think it's a bit of an overreaction. It really depends how good Cerberus actually is. If Cerberus is anywhere close to what they actually were to the end of the last split, then GAM is going to smash everybody, and it's not even going to be close. Like, if the Cerberus we saw today, I think, if you put them in the last split, in the end, they're probably just going to end up being 7th or 8th. I think Cerberus completely fell apart. I don't know what happened to them. It's just, there was nothing. There was no aggression. There was no laning. There was just death, basically. And GAM used that very well. So we might see some contests from a different team, but should they just dominate and play for the international stage, essentially, then they just have to find... It sounds really harsh, but they have to stop treating the official games like actual stage games and just accept them as practice games, and just try stuff out that they want to actually use. Because if they're stomping everybody on stage, most likely they're also stomping everybody in scrims. And I don't know how the VCS scrims, if they get regular sims, for example, with LPL teams. Because if they don't, then basically they should treat the stage games as practice games, because it's essentially the best practice you're going to get, because usually scrim games are worse. Which then translates not that great into international, because if the rest of your competition is really weak, you're probably not gonna be as prepared as the other teams.
Yeah, it's really hard to look at that Cerberus game and say anything definitive comes from it, because they were just so out of it. That did not look like a real team. So that felt like GAM playing Flash last in winter, sort of. That's what it felt like. So it's yeah. If you wound up going through like the first round robin and you have 2-0'd everyone and you've smashed them all, yeah, I think at that point you kind of just have to go, what is one of the weirdest things? What is one of the most off-ball, furthest play style from what we normally do draft we can do? We are just going to run that for the rest of the splits. Or if we consistently lose on it, maybe go back to secure playoffs, etc. But that sort of thing, like, go completely off the wall from what you normally do. Try and just get as many different strategies under your belt. The GAM's almost certainly scrimming some of the PCS teams, of course, some LJL teams as well, maybe. So they are going to get scrims elsewhere, but yeah, you kind of have to, if you have to show up and play VCS every day, you might as well get as much practice in there as well if you're that far ahead.
Yeah, and I think to end the day, I want to crown one series MVP. If you have someone to put forward, I think we gave MVP in game 1 mostly to Style, and then of course our support lover with B. But yeah, who would be a serious MVP? I'm not sure. All of them performed super well. So, do you have an immediate idea?
I think for me it would probably be Levi. He had a solid game 1, and especially he was just a facilitator, and especially in those slow games, it's very important what the jungler does, right? And he was on the right spots. He tried to force a bit in Italy, and basically forced permanent defensive play from Cerberus because he was all over the map. And in game 2, of course, he basically won every lane. I mean, he won top lane with a dive, then he helped out mid lane with a dive, and then he comes bot and he gets that gank, he gets a double kill for Karma, and basically at that point, with the armor boots coming in for Jhin, suddenly the entire lane changes because Karma has so much damage, and the Lucian can't one-shot the Jhin anymore, and the entire thing changes. So he basically won the game on every position. So for me, for the series itself, it's Levi, just because of the second game, and I think for me, it's always very important what player sets up the success of his team. Who's the man behind? You don't have to have the best stats. You don't have to have the most kills. It's just how much did you do for your team's success, and I think Levi did a lot this series.
Yeah, I think that's 100% pretty much fine. I can't really think of another name to throw in. The big standout players of game 2 weren't the big standouts in game 1.
That's true.
For the most, so Levi keeping Cardi comfortable in that first game to survive the laning phase, and then transitioning to just Goomba stomp in game 2. Yeah.
Fair enough. So it's Levi once again. We know if we ever put anything to vote, it's always Levi. So already has a good chance maybe for Player of the Week, but who knows? He's not going to play tomorrow, and with that, I think we're going to sign off. We have 2 series tomorrow to cast and cover and everything. We have BTS, or Sky I should say, playing against SE. Both of these teams lost 0-2 on day 1, so a huge bounce back is required from either side. And then we have Saigon Buffalo against Luxury, another very challenging series for Saigon Buffalo, but maybe a bounce back from them as well. So important series coming up. Maybe not the highest echelon of teams, but definitely important in the race for 4th place and playoffs. And with that, That's all from us from VCS English today. Thank you very much for watching. You can support us, follow us on Twitter, follow us here on Twitch, drop maybe a subscription or a cheer or whatever fits you. We would very much appreciate any support we can get. Thank you very much to Tim once again joining us today, and of course to the normal broadcast crew, to the casters. We had different play-by-play casters today. Thank you, Marby, and we're gonna be back tomorrow with Series 1 at 11 CET.
Legends never die when the world is calling you. Can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die, they become a part of you.